wanna show you what I know. Break it free from the mainstream, the studio machine. I want it my way. Indie Film Nation. I want it my way. Indie Film Nation. Going all the way. Indie Film Nation. You know it's gotta be Indie Film Nation. Indie Film Nation. It's gotta be Indie Film Nation.
People came to America generally to do good and seek religious freedom. People came to the Detroit area to get rich. What happened in the 1920s and 30s, you had an explosion of people coming here to work in the auto industry.
We have homes in this city that are $1 million, and we have homes in the city that are $20,000.
In our home, God's first.
You were raised here, you grew up here. It's a part of you. This is home.
People do have a very difficult time leaving here. But Fordson is the roots. It's the soul, it's the heart, it's the blood, it's where we all came from.
Fordson football is a big deal around here. It's a tradition, it's a way of life.
Their uncles played and their fathers played.
You know, everybody looks forward to Friday night lights.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly
First thoughts that came into my mind was, please God, don't let them be Arabs.
We were hit twice on September 11th. Once by Osama bin Laden, and second by those who associated us with Osama bin Laden.
This is what they look like, and this is the enemy. And what do they look like? They look like me.
This is the largest single concentration of Arabs in one city outside the Middle East. Today, they call Dearborn the Muslim capital.
We are very proud to be American too.
It's not only about winning and losing.
We are the luckiest people in the world to be born and live in America.
Where else you can achieve your dream? Nowhere.
Let's go, baby.
Hi, it's Mike Anthony Smith with another edition of Indie Film Nation, and today we've got the director Rashid Ghazi of the fantastic documentary Fordson, Faith, Fasting and Football. Rashid, welcome to the program. How are you today?
We're doing great. Thanks for having us.
Now, just tell me, how did you come up with the idea for this documentary? Why did you think that this particular story needed to be told?
Absolutely. Well, back in 2003, when we first came up with the idea, a friend of mine in USA Today wrote an article about the team and the fact that they were fasting. And I'm a Muslim American, and I really felt that Muslims in this country were severely misunderstood. And people really didn't know who we were. And that was kind of brought to light once the Iraq War started. And I felt that my fellow Americans didn't know who we were. And it wasn't their fault, because we can't expect the national news media to cover us the way we want it to be done. So I felt as a producer and somebody in marketing and television, it was our responsibility to tell a story about our people. And when I heard about the Fordson story, there were a number of elements in there that I thought were really compelling. So we started pursuing the project at that point, really to share the story of Muslim Americans in this country with our fellow Americans, and that was the genesis of the idea.
Obviously, some big issues are being tackled in the film. One of the great things I thought was tying it to the football team. It's something so American and truly something that every town has their high school football team. Did you find it a difficult thing to tie the themes together through the process?
Well, it was definitely a process, and it took us about 6 months to edit. The tie-in of football for me was the key to the movie. I happen to be a huge football fan, played high school football. One of my jobs is I actually coordinate and help produce all of ESPN's high school football telecasts. So I've been to 100 different high school football fields, and there's nothing more American than Friday night high school football. And so football really served as the vehicle for us to tell the story of all the different issues that we were dealing with. I also thought football would be a really great way to draw an audience in, because if we just did a movie about this community or people, I didn't think it was compelling enough. And I think one of the things that football shows is, and their passion for football, is just how truly American these people are.
And the actual process of the picking your subjects, how did you locate the people that you wanted to feature in the film?
Well, we started with the head coach, and we knew the head coach and got approval from him and then the school board. And the head coach then directed our producers and myself towards a number of different individuals. So we went out and had a pre-production day, met a number of the characters. One of our main characters, Bilal, who's in the movie, the running back, who describes fasting and some of the other issues in a pretty heavy way. Our production team actually spotted him, interviewed him, and then we decided to incorporate him. And then once we got to Michigan and we shot for 12 days, we found other characters along the way. So we found Osama Siblani, and we found Big Joe. And then we went back on about 5 or 6 different shoots to follow up with some of the characters that we had found during the process, whose stories we wanted to develop a little bit more. So it was an ongoing process.
So how long did you shoot for, and on what particular camera and gear were you using for the shooting phase?
Sure. One of the decisions that we made early on, it's an independent film, privately financed, was we were going to put our money and our resources into principal photography. And my feeling was, and our team's feeling was, if we don't get the photography and the sound right, there's no reason for us to then go ahead and do this movie, because we wanted it to look beautiful and sound great. So we shot it on Panasonic HD Vericams, about 5% of the movies on P2s. That we shot ourselves, but we actually found 2 phenomenal photographers in Michigan, Mark Berg and Mike Seamus, who work for Dateline, who work for 60 Minutes. They've done a number of things for Oprah, and so their talent really shone through in terms of the beautiful shots that we have.
And the editing process, obviously you mentioned 6 months. Did you, obviously because of the themes that are picked up in the film, did you have to write a bit of a script, or how did you actually bring it together in the editing suite?
Sure. So what we knew is walking into the movie that we had a number of issues. We had football, we had a rivalry game, we had Ramadan, we had fasting, we had the issue of 9/11, we had the American dream, and we also had some of those terrorism charges. So those were the stories that we knew. We then did is we actually transcribed every interview and started putting those themes together. Locally, we went to Motion Post, and a friend of mine, Ed Pickard, who runs that shop, and they edited the movie for us. And then I also hired a writer, a local writer in Chicago, Ruth Lightman, and she helped put a rough cut together. And so we actually cut on video, which was a lot easier for us to see and react to, and then for us as a production team, the director and my producers, to take that rough cut and then really work it and finesse it and get the story told. But there was a process in terms of how we wanted to tell the stories, in what order. And I think one of the biggest things we thought was, let's keep it simple. My message to our team was, this is not the usual suspects. We've got phenomenal footage, great content, great stories. Let's lay the movie out in a simplistic fashion, because I thought the one criticism could be they had great stuff and they screwed up the storytelling along the way.
And that particular editing process and plucking it together, what system were you editing on, and was there? You mentioned transcribing. How did you organise the transcribing, and how big was that team?
Sure. Well, Busma, one of our producers, the other producer, Usher, works full time for WTTW. I've got a full time job, so Busma actually took it upon herself to transcribe, along with Motion Post, one of their associate producers, transcribed. So it was a 2-person transcribing team all summer long, which was a very long process. So we transcribed that way by ourselves. The editing system was Apple Final Cut Pro. So we had it edited there. We also hired a guy named Sandy Weber to do our graphics. A guy, Sam Fishkin, at Mix Kitchen actually did our mixing. So it was a completely original Chicago post-production all the way through.
And look, congratulations on the film. It's a fantastic insight for those that are looking at it. How have you going to self-distribute, or what's your intentions?
Well, we just finished the film. Slamdance is our world premiere. We are in conversation with a couple television networks. We're also in conversation with a couple of distribution companies. And I think there's two audiences for this film. There's our fellow Americans who hopefully will watch this via television, VOD, DVD. But then what we found is when we put the trailer up, our extended trailer on YouTube, we got over 100,000 hits. And the Muslim American community is really wanting to see this film. And we may do a lot of special screenings across the country. I think one of the reasons they want to see the film is we had over 100,000 hits for our YouTube video with zero marketing except through Facebook. Because I think most Muslims in this country, like, somebody's finally put together a film that tells our story, that says, you know what, we love this country. We can be proud of our religion, our heritage, and our nationalism and our patriotism, and they don't conflict with each other. That, you know, we're not fans of Osama bin Laden. We don't stand for what he stood for. We stand for everything opposite of what he stands for. And we'd like to see him captured and be shot, and which what Big Joe said. So that kind of voice among the Muslims in America has been really lacking, and I think that's why there's been such a great response, not only from them, but from other people as well.
And do you have a website or a place where people can find a little bit more about the film?
Absolutely. If you go to www.Fordson the Movies, that's Ford, F-O-R-D-S-O-N, Fordson the Movie. Our website's up. We've got press up there. We've got the trailer up there. We're going to have updates. We also have over 3,000 fans on our YouTube page, which is Fordson the Movie. So if you're interested, become a friend of ours, and we'll update you. And our hope is to launch and release this movie sometime late summer, early fall of 2011.
Okay, well, Rashid, thank you very much. A fantastic film. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.